Joining us today is the Eisner Award-winning artist and co-founder of the creator-owned comic publisher / media company, Ghost Machine. He's here today to talk about his dystopian sci-fi series, Rook Exodus, with writer Geoff Johns, which returns on October 7th with a brand new arc. It is my pleasure to welcome Jason Fabok onto the Oblivion Bar Podcast.
Hey guys, how's it going?
It's going well. Jason, thank you so much for being here. It's been one of these sort of, I feel like we're going full circle here. I was telling Aaron a little bit before we hopped on this conversation that there is this very particular moment in my history with comics, right around the time where I first started becoming a Wednesday warrior, like a dedicated Wednesday warrior, I'll say. And this is probably around the earlier 2010s. Sometimes they call it the aughts, right? It sort of feels like you and your career and your cover art, especially there at DC, sort of it popped on the scene, and then it felt like seemingly out of nowhere with, I think, possibly Batman Eternal. You immediately became, I think, sort of a household name with fans like myself and others. So I'm just curious. I know you'll probably argue that probably wasn't exactly how it went. There's probably a lot more work that went into it, and it wasn't just like overnight success. But I'm wondering if you could take us back to that time and sort of speak on those early days of starting out at DC.
Yeah, you know, it is kind of fun. I've thought about that too. And I generally did have success pretty quickly. And I think that is kind of weird. It's not normal for the industry. You know, my story through comics it starts with David Finch, who lives in my area, and I was out of college, and I really wanted to get into comic books. I had created a little portfolio, so I sent it to him, just seeing if he could critique my work. And he invited me over to his house, and he critiqued my work, and but he kept inviting me back over to his place, and he would show me kind of, you know, he would teach me how to draw buildings and teach me how to draw cars and figures and hands and heads and eyes and everything else, and I did that for a good 6 months, and then he had made the transition over to DC from Marvel in 2010, and he wasn't doing any interior stuff. I think he was training me to be like his pencil assist to help him out with background and things like that, because he had kind of done that with some of the other books he did at Marvel. And so he was like, well, I'm only doing covers right now. I won't have any work for you. So let's just send your portfolio in and see if you can get some work. And he did. And my first ever professional work was doing 2 fill-in issues of Superman Batman. This would have been pre-New 52. And then I didn't, after I did those 2 books, I felt I didn't really do too good of a job. It was very tough to go from no experience to all of a sudden having to pump out a page a day. And so it was a big rush job. And actually for comic book fans, a lot of those issues, Dave Finch helped me to lay them out. And you can even tell there's some pages he pretty much just drew for me, because we were just scrambling to get stuff done. So he's uncredited, but there was a few pages there that he did draw. I wasn't really getting much work from DC. So he took me to C2E2 and got my portfolio in the hands of Aspen Comics. He knew some of the guys over there, and Aspen was a place that, you know, they said to me, like, look, you know, you can learn kind of at your own pace. You can learn to figure out how to do this job, but also to get your quality with your speed and kind of like figure it out. So I spent, I think, a good 8-9 months there. And then I came back to DC to fill in on 2 issues of Batman the Dark Knight that Dave was writing at that time. Mm-hmm. And the New 52 was kind of kicking off. So he went to work on Batman the Dark Knight, the New 52. And so he's like, do you want these 2 issues? Like, you know, it's again, it was just experience. And so I did those 2 issues, and then right away I got offered Detective Comics. So it was like, it was kind of, it's odd. Like looking back on it, I mean, all the doors just kept kind of like opening, and blowing wide open, and I was very inexperienced. But I have to say, I had Dave who was there helping me, and I could go to him for I could ask him a lot of questions, and he would help me out, and he'd tell me, okay, this is how you should approach this page or that page. But I also had really good editors. I had Mike Marks at DC. He was an excellent editor. I had Katie Kuber, same thing. And I could ask them for critiques, and they would truthfully critique my work, tell me what I needed to do to get better. And I really credit a lot of that, like to helping me kind of find my place. And they gave me cover assignments right away. Like they didn't have to. They could have had somebody else do covers on those Detective Comics issues that I did, but they didn't. They let me do the covers, and I fumbled through some of them, and I changed some of them, but in the end, people really responded to that, and and then Batman: The Dark Knight, and then that was kind of from there on. I was there, and I was in DC, and I was there for 10 years, 12 years, and so, but yeah, my journey is an odd and different journey. A lot of guys have to fight it out in the trenches for a long time. And, my dream was always to work on Batman, and my first professional work was a issue of Superman Batman where I got to draw Batman. So it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, a lot of my goals kind of happened quickly, and then I had to kind of create new goals for myself and what I wanted to do. But I'm grateful for that time and just learning and being able to kind of figure my way through it, and just had really good people around me who were willing to take a chance on me, but also to help me. And I think my willingness to, and my, trying to be humble and know that I don't know everything and I need to learn. I think that the editors liked that about me, and they were willing to help me and guide me. And even to this day, Brian Cunningham he's now working at Ghost Machine, but he was my editor on Justice League and stuff. And he had a big influence on me too, telling me different things I should try to do with my artwork to help it. And I could always go to him, and I could trust him. If I say something's not working on this page or this cover, what is it? And then he'll just say, oh, it's this. And you should try to do this maybe instead. And having those kind of people and being vulnerable enough to, a lot of guys might feel that's like showing weakness or something, but I just want the best product possible. So I'm going to ask people who, if I'm really struggling on something, I'm going to ask people who have knowledge and can point me in the right direction so I can do the best work possible. So yeah, that was kind of my start.
Yeah. It sounds like you had a really great support system. And I think a lot of creators would agree. There's sort of this thought that, you could be the most talented person in comics, but it's almost like having some folks in your corner plus the talent plus some luck almost to sort of get you there, right? Like that's sort of the magic cocktail that you have to have in order to end up in a great situation. And you said something a moment ago that I was sort of wanting us to noodle on for a moment. And you said like your goals changed, right? Like you came into DC and you're drawing Batman and Superman immediately. Can you talk a little bit about, if you're able to reveal this, like what were some of those goals that you sort of moved on from once you were able to like do some of those initial goals, right?
Yeah, like my initial goal was I wanted to work for a company like DC or Marvel and work on all those characters that I loved, growing up. I was actually more of a Marvel guy growing up, but Batman was my favorite overall comic book character. And the fact that David Finch went to work at DC, that was my door into DC Comics. And it was actually quite an exciting time because the new 52 was starting up at that time. And there was a lot of excitement about that, even within the comic book world.
$2.99 an issue. Can't beat it. That's incredible.
Yeah. And people look back on it with different kind of feelings and whatnot. But for me, it was very exciting to be there. And to go to conventions and being part of conversations about these books and what they were doing with them. And, but yeah, my goals were really, I wanted to work on the biggest characters I could at DC. I wanted to cement some sort of legacy with Batman. That was kind of one of my goals. I wanted to do something with the Joker at some point. I wanted to do really my goal was kind of like, I wanted to be the guy that DC would look at for big events and big books that they really needed. Right.
Check. I'm checking off all these things that you've done really well. And I'm holding up fingers now for everybody who can't see the video. Like, Jason, you name all these things. You're like, yeah, I think you accomplished all that. Yeah.
Check.
Yeah. And those are kind of like, I wanted, also another one was I wanted to find a writer that I really clicked with, that I could build a partnership with, because I looked at all of, I've seen like Tim Sale and Jeff Loeb had great runs on characters and things. Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely, same kind of deal. And you start to see these little, like these partnerships that pop up. And you had Geoff Johns, Gary Frank had done a lot of stuff. And it's like, I wanted to find that. And I was able to find that with Jeff, and kind of build that relationship as a working relationship with him, and build it into kind of what we're doing now. Those were the ones with DC. I found that as I went through all of those different things and hit certain marks, that's when my goals started to shift and change. And I started looking at everything. I was like, well, I've accomplished so much. Like, where can I really go from here? Like, what can I really do? Yeah, I could do another Batman story, or I could do another Justice League thing, but that wasn't really getting me excited. And, I could go do Marvel stuff, like Spider-Man would be cool. X-Men would be cool. But that felt like, again, the same kind of thing. And it was actually a conversation that I had with Rob Liefeld at a comic convention that really started to get the gears going in my head about doing something independent. And we had talked at a con, and he kind of just said, look, I'm not going to tell you what to do with your career. But he had said something to the point of, you've done everything you can do at DC. He said, go over and do 1 year at Marvel, and then go do a creator-owned thing and just build a creator-owned book and cement a legacy in a character that you own. And he said, if you do that, you will be set. And I never really thought about that before. And so he kind of put this bug in my ear, and I started looking at creators like Mike Mignola and Todd McFarlane and Robert Kirkman, and I started seeing that, and that became the new goal. It was like, and I started to. There was almost like a bit of a conviction there too. You're working on all these famous characters, and it's awesome to work on Swamp Thing. It's awesome to work on Batman. It's like an honor to do that. Okay. Superman. These are characters I've loved, and I still love since I was a little kid. But they're characters that have been around 80, 90 years. And I was kind of felt like a conviction, like I wanted to create something new. Like I really liked Hellboy. Mike Mignola, I loved that comic, and I was really, I just loved the freedom that he had to tell the stories that he wanted to do through that book. And I just kept on, and like Walking Dead and what Kirkman was doing with Invincible. And that became really, attractive to me. And that became kind of the new goal that I wanted to accomplish. And Jeff had just kind of done that with Geiger, through Image, and that's when kind of Ghost Machine started to have it was like a tiny conversation at the time, but really it was, let's go do a creator-owned book. And so that became my goal, and that was kind of my shift in where I wanted to go. And and so that's where I am now. But I remember Finch kind of telling me, like, shoot for big goals. Like, don't limit yourself. Like, set ridiculous goals and then go after them. Don't be afraid to say, yeah, I want to be the guy that they look at for a big Justice League event or Batman. Like, set that goal for yourself and chase after it. And, and I did, and I was able to accomplish some of that stuff. And, and I'm happy, I'm proud about it. And it was a lot of fun. A lot of hard work, but it was fun too.
It's incredible to to kind of witness this, because I don't, just to give a little bit of background, Chris and I were both working, and we were there at New York Comic Con when the announcement was made and Ghost Machine was kind of revealed to the world. And I think it was, yeah. And so I just remember this buzz as soon as it happened, all the creators that were associated with Ghost Machine, it just felt like this like electricity was kind of like flowing through this very small part of the artist alley. And, all you guys were kind of like in your own section. And it was just such an exciting time, especially from the fan perspective. I'll just say, like, we had Geoff and Gary on back in 2023, talking about Junkyard Joe, Geiger, really from their viewpoint and how the formation of Ghost Machine really began. And Geoff said on that show, on that episode, he said, it all came from wanting control, owning the characters, deciding when the book ships, even down to the paper quality. We wanted to create without anyone telling us no. The spirit and passion of the creators run everything, not some faceless executives, which pardon my language, I fucking love all of that. I'd love to hear from you about how the idea was presented to you. And, was it difficult leaving the position you had at DC, where you were really one of those flagship creators? And, I'd love to hear that.
Yeah. I felt when we did Three Jokers, there was a lot of change up that kind of happened at DC at that time. And I've talked about this before, but we wanted to actually do a sequel, and we had a really good idea. Like I think our Three Jokers sequel would have actually been bigger than our Batman Three Jokers. Like it was a really, really cool Batman story, and we could not get that thing greenlit. And that mostly was because there was a lot of shakeup, and there wasn't really anybody in charge at the time. And I kind of felt a little hurt, It's like, come on, guys! Like we just gave you your biggest hit of the year. I think you can just trust us. Like we have something really cool here.
Jason, if I can, if you don't mind, I just want to interject really quickly. I want to just bring this home really, really heavy. What DC did to Geoff and you and Geoff and Gary as well with Doomsday Clock, I don't know, as a fan, I will never forgive them for that particular moment in their publication history, because what you guys, I agree with you, were building was something very, very interesting and awesome. And I just want to add that sort of contextualization from a fan's perspective. But please go on. Yeah, it's funny because I really, it bummed me out, but I don't really have any ill will towards DC. Like I still love the company, and I root for them. Like I'm happy that like Absolute Batman's doing great. Like it's like probably the only DC book I'm reading, and I'm enjoying it. And I don't have it because I get it. And it was a weird time. Like again, the leadership had kind of been stripped. A lot of our editors and people had lost their jobs. Like it was a really weird. DC went from this place that I was really excited and I really loved working for to I don't know anybody here anymore, except for like Jim at the top. And it was a kind of a weird, like I felt kind of in limbo as a creator, and I wasn't really sure what to do. And that's when Geoff and I were talking about like, what do we want to do? What would really make us excited? And like there's the Three Jokers sequel idea, but we like I said, we waited months and months and months and just couldn't get, and we didn't want to start it because what if we start it and they tell us no, then I've wasted my time. But that's when the rumblings of Rook started. I had all these drawings and some character designs and like a very, very rudimentary idea. And I started pitching it to Geoff, and at first he wasn't like, I don't know. We got to find something here that makes it really exciting. And then all of a sudden that clicked, and the idea came together. And at that point I knew like, okay, let's do this. Like, let's take a chance. Let's do something for ourselves. Ghost Machine itself as an idea it kind of started to come about, but Rook was already kind of in starting, and it would have just been an image book. That the two of us would have done. But as creators, we started just to talk about this idea of this company and what could we do to kind of change
our fates and the fates of other comic book creators, and maybe even inspire other comic book creators to do something like we're doing, to take back that control. And we were inspired by guys like Todd McFarlane and Robert Kirkman. Like I remember reading, like sending Geoff like quotes from Todd McFarlane interviews where he was talking about having his control and what he could do creatively and not having to answer to anybody. And that to me became very, it just became very attractive. Even during our time on doing Three Jokers, we found that, things we were working on, ideas were showing up in other books. And it's like, well, are people leaking, like are editors leaking some of our ideas? And we would have to, we ended up, it actually was for the better because we went back and changed some stuff and made the book better. Mm-hmm. But you can't use this, you can't do that, you can't do, we understood, like, we don't own these characters, so we can't really argue with DC. I think we always had a pretty good head on our shoulders about what we could do and what, we knew that we didn't own these characters, so you kind of have to follow what the company wants. And I don't fault DC for that or anything like that. Again, like I said, I really loved working for them. But the attractiveness of owning your thing and doing your own thing, that really started to burn within me. That was like a fire. It was like a fire was lit, and we all kind of talked about it. It's like, this is something we just have to do. It's a big chance. We're taking a chance here, but we all left the companies we were working for, DC, Marvel, on good terms. Like, it's not like we burned bridges. We all enjoyed working there, and we still know some people who are there and whatnot. But it was just, I was the whole idea of us owning a company for me was kind of, I think I was a little scared at first, because it's like, well, I thought we were just doing a comic book. We went from like, we're just going to do a comic book to now we're going to create a company. But it was all for the betterment and for the good of us as creators, and keeping creative control, control of the business aspect side of things, and on all of this, and having Gary and Brian Hitch and myself and Pete Tomasi and Francis and all of these kind of creators who were in it. It made it that much more. It made it less risky. You're going in with people who know what they're kind of doing, and having Geoff there as a head and his experience that he knows from both DC, the Hollywood side of things, being a producer with Dick Donner and all this kind of stuff. So it's like, we brought in a dream team of people who know what they were doing, and just the creative energy and wanting to create something new. Like, that stuff gets you going. It gets you fired up, and it's been a great adventure so far. I've been really enjoying it.
You're just going to have to start paying somebody to like come up with like new goals like every couple of days, because like you just like keep smashing these goals that you put in front of yourself. And I know there's so much more that goes on behind the scenes, but it almost like from the fan perspective, you got to admit, it almost looks like you're doing all this without even breaking a sweat, which is absolutely incredible, because you're doing some, like, you've done, and again, pardon me if my language is offensive to the listener, to you, Jason, you're just crushing it, and you're just like kicking the shit out of every single one of these goals. And it's inspiring to people to know, because again, just like you said earlier, like, you achieve so many goals really quickly. And again, that's not the story that everybody can expect for themselves, but the fact that it's a possibility, like, you're setting a standard that a ton of people are going to want to follow, and that right there is a great legacy to have. And I just think that that's something that I think everybody wants to leave behind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really hope that through Ghost Machine we can inspire others to kind of do this kind of thing. It's not easy. It may look easy, but there's a lot of sacrifice that goes on behind the scenes to get this thing going, especially in your initial early phases of your company. There's ups and there's downs, and there's things that people don't see. And there's good days and there's bad days. Working on Rook is not the easy option. This is the hardest option. This is the hardest thing I've ever drawn in my life. The easy thing would be to go back and draw Batman again. I could do that. And I could even just put in like 50% and I could probably do okay. But with Rook, you can't afford to do that. Like when you're doing your own creator own thing, you have to win the reader each and every issue. And so there's a lot of nights, my wife was here. She would testify that, there's a lot of nights I come up those stairs and I feel like from my office at the end of the day, and I just am broken and I feel low confidence, or I've been struggling with trying to get a page to look the way I want, or covers. I'm really thinking deeply about this stuff, and I'm trying to find that feeling out of the work. And it's a lot more personal than just drawing another Batman story. But nothing great is going to come easy. It's not easy. It takes a lot of sacrifice and sweat and hard work to get to those spots. And it takes some failure. It takes some learning as you're going along. But that's kind of the fun part. You do something and you go, I don't know if that worked. Let's try this. How about we try this, instead, or let's try this business thing, or let's, and those little bits and pieces of things help you build up just knowledge and wisdom and what to do and experience. I don't have much. I'm learning the whole business side of things. Like I didn't ever really get that. I learned some of it because of talking with Geoff while working on these books. I would learn some of the behind the scenes stuff that was going on at DC, and good things to do and bad things to do and what you should, but now I'm learning it firsthand. We're discussing these things as a team, and we're talking about what strategy should we do? And that's kind of stuff you're not learning while you're just on the job. Like there's other things I'm thinking about all the time that aren't just the drawings. It's how to get the company in a good position to be successful. And I want it to be successful. And, we have I have other goals now set in my head for what I want to do. And we'll see how long it takes to get there. But the one thing I've always, I believe, it's like goal setting is something that I do it in my day-to-day life. It's like I get up in the morning and I say to myself, okay, today I'm going to finish page 10 and I'm going to get a start on page 11. That's my goal. Sometimes I don't make that goal. Sometimes I'm still stuck on page 10, but I set a goal and I know, okay, I got to go take the kids to hockey practice after, I have my schedule all laid out and I run through it. And each day it's every time you accomplish one of those little goals, it fires you up to set the next one and go after that. And it's like you can, after a while, when you're goal oriented like that, you can start to almost manifest things, and your dreams and the things that you dream about, and these bigger goals, they don't seem so far fetched and ridiculous after a while, because you just kind of, you set a goal for it and you say, okay, it might take years to get there, but I'm going to slowly just keep working at this thing. Like a big goal for me is I would love to see Rook become something more bigger than the comic. I would love to see it become a movie or a video game or an animated show or a TV series. And it's like, that's kind of wild to even think of that, like that it could possibly do that. But I'm almost convinced it's going to happen. Like I'm convinced in my mind because I can visualize it. I can see it already. And it may not happen in my lifetime. Maybe it'll happen in my kid's lifetime, but I know it's going to happen. And you just you manifest that and kind of put it out there, and you just chase after that, and you wait for the opportunity to rise, and you've got to be ready for when that opportunity comes to say yes and attack it and go for it. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm a big proponent of doing that kind of thing, setting goals for yourself and chasing after them and fulfilling them, even just little ones each and every day.
Sure. Yeah.
Love the passion.
I love
the passion.
Yeah. Love it. Absolutely. And since you sort of already set us up, Jason, let's go ahead and get into Rook, which is kind of the reason why you're here today, which is, again, talking about yours and Geoff's corner of the Ghost Machine universe, Rook Exodus. Now, I'm going to give a brief synopsis just for the layman, just in case someone here, for some reason, is listening and hasn't either read Rook or hasn't heard of it yet. But in the year 2173, a once simple farmer named Rook fled a crumbling Earth for a new life on planet Exodus, a terraformed planet where all of nature, including its imported animal population, was completely controlled by humans called warders. But
Wardens.
Wardens. I apologize. Wardens. But when the Exodus world engine failed, the Wardens' power fell through the wrong hands, creating chaos and mass evacuation for those who could afford it. The rest must scavenge for the rest. The rest must scavenge through the escape vessel as the war for control of what's left of Exodus begins. Now, you guys again are returning on October 1st with issue 7. This is a brand new story arc. We had a chance to read issue 7 early. It's awesome, everybody. If you liked those first 6 issues, it's a lot of the same, a lot of good stuff there. But before we get into that story, Jason, I have to say, again, we've been doing a lot of buttering up here for you. Aaron and I have been doing the show here for about 5 years, and we've sort of slowly learned that when creators come on the show to talk about the stuff, they don't necessarily love us just sitting here buttering them up the entire time. But we have to tell you, what you and Brad Anderson do together with your pencils and his coloring, it's just like, it's honestly, and I'm not just saying this because you're in front of me here, I think it's one of the best in the medium. I think you guys are one of the best tandems in terms of penciler and color. So if you could just speak a little bit about that shorthand that you and Brad have, and what does it take for you guys to consistently make this magic that you guys do together?
Yeah. Brad and I, the way I've described it before, anybody who's a musician and has played in bands and stuff, it's like when you play with musicians that you really like click with, it's like you're telepathically connecting, like, like, okay, we're going to go to this key change. We're going to do this. We're going to and you're just jamming and things are just flowing. That's like Brad and I. It's like, he just knows what I want. Like he gets it. And I've been working with him since Batman Eternal #1. I really, I wanted to work with him. He's one of the few colorists who understands 2-point lighting. This is such a weird kind of thing, but like, I started kind of learning this whole this 2-point lighting kind of deal. And I stole it actually from Gary Frank because he used it a lot. But it's essentially you have your main light source coming from one way, which casts all your shadows, but then you have a secondary light source that is coming from behind that lights up just the rim. It's called a rim light, just the rim of a character in the shadow, so that the shadow doesn't go all the way to the edge of a character. There's a bit of the light bleed over from the side. It's a classic film technique when they're lighting stuff. It's rim lighting, backlighting. And I started doing a lot of it, and colorists just weren't giving me that effect that I wanted. And Gary Frank used it a lot and uses it a lot. And Brad, being he was his colorist, I just noticed like, wow, he does it. He actually like hits that rim light with a different colored light, and it makes your characters look so much more 3-dimensional. And so I wanted Brad, got to finally work with him. And I mean, I was kind of rough and new, and Brad had been around for a bit, but he had patience with me, and we worked together. And we talk about color theory and stuff like that. And I'll give him, I am kind of a little bit of a control freak. So I will say, like, sometimes I'll draw a cover and I'll just throw I have a specific color in mind. Like, I want this to be, especially with the Rook stuff, it was a lot of yellow at first. And then the second arc, it's like blues and greens. And we even have a color with a cover with a really bright pink kind of to it. And it's like, I'll throw that out there, but I'm always like, Brad, you just do what you want to do. Like, if you feel like something should be a different color vibe, you just do it. And he always, every time I get the colors back, it's like, yeah, that's exactly how I thought of it in my head. He just understands it. He understands the color theory that I want to go with, or what I'm thinking. From Batman all the way to Rook, he just understands it. And when you find somebody like that and that you're jamming again, it becomes a collaboration. And it's like, it's our art as a team. It's he's just as important to the look and the feel of the book and the artwork as I am. Like I'm delivering the line work, he brings it to life, and it's excellent. And I put him through a lot of, I think, long nights figuring out all his detail and stuff. And I layer things for him so that he can like easily separate things out. I try to make it a little easier on him. But I mean, he sent me a couple pages today, and I just apologized to him. I'm like, sorry, dude. Sorry for making you color like a million spiders and stuff like that, but it looks great, you know?
Yeah.
And, but yeah, he's excellent. And I'm so thankful to be able to work with somebody like that. And he's a good guy too. He's a hockey fan. And he's Canadian. So we get along really well with that. And, you know, yeah, he's in it. I believe Brad is the best colorist in comics. He doesn't get the accolades that he deserves. Like he should have won at least a few Eisner awards by now for his colors. But, you know, again, whatever. That's the politics of comics. But he's worth his weight in gold, and I think he's the best colorist out there, bar none.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess from that same vantage point, then, if I can continue to have you brag about your friends here, talk us through that chemistry that you and Geoff have together too. I mean, not only just planning out this series, but also just sort of like the larger Ghost Machine brand in total. And I guess in that same breath, if I can sort of make this a two-parter here, and I apologize, big question alert here. What makes Geoff such a powerful storyteller?
Yeah, Geoff and I have had that collaboration thing going on ever since when we worked on Justice League together. Geoff is a collaborator at heart. That's what he wants. He seeks out creators that want to collaborate, and he'll admit like he's worked with different creators in the past where they just didn't click, and they couldn't find that place where you're jamming and things are just flowing between each other. And I think that's why, like with Gary, myself, Brian Hitch, it's like those are the guys that he connected with when he was writing for them. But as an artist, a lot of the times when you're working with a writer professionally, the writer just gives you your script and you just draw it, and you don't have much of a say in, you know, hey, what about this idea or what about that? No, it's just you get your script and it's up to you to just draw it. And that works, and that's fine. But with Geoff, he's the kind of person who will call you 2-3 times a day to talk about an idea, and he wants to hear what your ideas are. So he wants to know, like, what are some things that you're interested in, or you know, and every person's a little different, so they may have different, you know, desires or likes or things that they're passionate about, and you can he will listen to you and guide the story with you to that place. And he'll use, or if you say like, yeah, I got this cool idea for this kind of a scene, and you might not see it in the next issue, but like 2 or 3 issues down the line, all of a sudden it's there and you're like, yeah, cool. You know, like that's great. But as a creator, as an artist, it makes you feel respected. It makes you feel like it connects you more with the work. So you don't just feel like a cog in the wheel. You feel like you're an actual integral part of the creation. I mean, you're drawing the comic book. You're actually spending more time on it, working hours than the writer does. Really, you're spending a month, 2 months of your life drawing this thing and living it. And he's working, he can work on many different things at once. But when your ideas are appearing in there, when you're having a say in the outcome of the story, you emotionally are now connected. And so you want to do your best work. You want to put forward your best, you know, work that you've done, and you want to make you want to make Geoff proud of the story, and you want to be able to be happy with the thing that you get at the end. And that would be my big tip for writers out there, if any writers are listening. You got to connect with your artist, and you got to talk to them. And I get it. There's some language barriers, people from all over the world working together, but connecting with your artist, giving them a call, talking through a storyline, listening to if they have any cool ideas, giving them license to kind of just play even visually with things, those things go a long way to build a team, because really comic books are a team game, and you're building this thing together. And Geoff is excellent at that. The storytelling part of it is, for me, it's amazing because he doesn't, like, I think differently from him when it comes to story. Geoff is always thinking, he's not just thinking about the plot, but he's thinking about, for him, the most important thing is the characters. It's this character is here at the beginning of the journey, and we want to go here with them. What kind of trials does this character go through to get them over here to the end, to whatever, like a theme or whatever we want, this emotion? How can we develop this character to make them more and more relatable to the audience and to the people who are reading this? The way I think as an artist is way more visually. It's just, I want to draw a cool action scene of car chase through a desert with machine guns, and so we kind of balance each other there, because sometimes we'll talk about a story and he's telling me all this great emotion stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. But do I get to draw Rook machine guns, at a giant turtle or something? You know what I mean? Like that's what gets me fired up. But the character stuff is what gets Geoff fired up. And so the two of us kind of come together, and I'm always kind of pushing him a little more action. Give me that action. Push that emotion. I'm great with that. But give me an action scene here. And then usually once I get the script back and I realize I have to draw these, like, all these characters fighting tons of, animals and stuff, then I go, oh my gosh, why did I ask for that? It's easier to just draw a bunch of talking sequences. But that balance and that collaboration is something that's great. And Geoff is able to tap into that because he's always thinking about character first. And that, again, that's kind of like one of the slogans of our company is creators that you'll know, characters that you'll love. And even the books themselves, this was something, a strategy we discussed, is we saw all these books coming out of the independent sphere, but they were all named weird kind of things that you didn't know what was going, like, what's the theme here, or who's the hero of this thing? And then we look back at the classic comic books all throughout time, and they just named the comic after the character. It's Batman, it's Superman, it's the Justice League, it's
Space Ghost,
Spawn, it's Hellboy. And so it's like, let's just name the books after the characters, and then you know who the book is about. And again, everything points back character focused. Geiger, Redcoat, Rook, the Rocket Fellers. And it's always just driven back to that character first thing and theme. And again, that the reader connects with that, and you left the action and the adventure, but you got to have those character and those emotional moments in there to really connect with your audience and with the reader. And he's a master at doing.
It's so funny that you say that, because one thing that Chris and I constantly talk about when we're criticizing some, again, like the MCU and some of the things that are coming out, when there's just so much of it, that's the thing that is lacking in a lot of these like properties, is there's no connection with the character. There's no desire to see the outcome of their story. And that's one thing that I loved, especially about, Rook and Swine and Direwolf and these characters that are all engrossed in this world, in this story. And not only just that, to take it a step further, their designs are so unique. They're so detailed heavy. And that's kind of what I want to ask you about next is, like, if you have this specific love of costumes, or character design, because, again, like, it's clear that Rook is a design heavy series, from the masks to the weapons to the vehicles, the city layouts, the jungles, the forests. How do you even approach that level of detail? Is it a background in character design? Is it a background in costume? Like, tell us about that level of detail.
Yeah. Actually, the thing that comes to mind as you bring that up, because I was as you're asking that question, I was really thinking about that. Like, yeah, where does that come from? I think that for me comes from the making of DVDs of the Lord of the Rings, the extended editions. When I was a teenager, late teens, when those movies came out, that was my life. Like, I loved Lord of the Rings. I was reading all the books. Then the movies came out. And I remember those extended edition DVDs came out, and they had hours and hours of making of stuff. And really, one of my first kind of dreams kind of coming through high school was, like, comic book artist actually wasn't the first thing. My first thing was I wanted to work in film, and I wanted to maybe be like a film director or a concept artist. And I, like, looking at those guys at Weta Workshop drawing these character designs, and the thought that they put into all of the little details on, like, the elves' costumes, or like putting these themes in these, like, they were really thinking about it. Like, this is a real world, and these are real civilizations. We got to think about it like it's if we're unearthing history and not just creating some fantasy thing. We're unearthing a lost history. I remember it's
archaeology. It's not lore.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember the head of Weta, I think his name is Richard Taylor, talking about that in those DVDs. And so I think that's where a lot of that comes from. And with Rook, I really wanted to do something that nobody else could really do. Like, nobody else could come along and draw the book. Maybe that's not really a good plan, but I wanted to do something that was me and that only I could do. And a lot of work went into designing the helmets. And my brother's a 3D artist, a modeler he works in video games. And so I would give him sketches. This was even like as we were kind of still ramping up and figuring out ideas, I would give him helmet sketches, and he would do really rough kind of like 3D sculptures. And we could look at these helmets from 360 and like, oh, I want to change that because I don't like the silhouette when it's in this view. And we worked at this stuff to try and find something that we really thought was unique and appealing, still looked like the animal, but wasn't crazy spot on. Like, it kind of, and we really, like, we were really trying to hone a lot of these things. And I love that aspect of it. It takes a long time though. It takes a long time. And working on, like I had mentioned, this is the hardest thing I've ever worked on. And it's because you have to literally create everything. Like Geoff can write, I always talk about, there's a splash page in issue 3, I think it is, where they come into the swamp and there's like this city built on a giant waterfall and there's boats and stuff. And that's literally like a one sentence. It's like, but I have to sit there and think like, well, what does this what do their houses look like? Is it built upon a previous city that was there? Did they, who are the people living here? Is there a thematic kind of thing that I should do with the way that the buildings look? For that one, because it was the turtle warden lives there, all the buildings have a round top. So it's like almost like a turtle shell. Like, you're thinking about all of these kinds of things, and it takes a long time. Like design, like Geoff wrote in the first arc that the villain has a big thing called the Ark, and it's essentially a moving boat on wheels. And I'm trying to find, here's like the splash page, but like,
yeah, it's sick.
Yeah, I wonder if for people that aren't seeing this on YouTube, I'll say it's think of like a sort of a clay, much more mechanized, sort of like I would say like Chris Nolan's Dark Knight Batmobile looking type.
I'm gonna solve this for you, Chris.
Okay.
Just think of the Thundercats, their vehicle,
okay,
but like on an excessive amount of steroids to where it's like the size of a city, and it's like, it is just bulldozing. Like, we're talking like Avatar sized, like they're destroying the jungle on Pandora here. Like, this thing is mean, it's sick, and it's badass.
And like, that's one little sentence in the script, but it took me like 2 weeks to design that thing. Like, I did like tons of different designs until I found the look and the shape that I kind of wanted. But those are things you have to think about when you're working on Batman, and Geoff says, Gotham Aquarium or, whatever, or the theater. It's like Monarch Theater. It's like, well, there's lots of history I can draw from. I just go find some reference. I pull from that. I kind of know everybody kind of knows what Gotham City should look like. And so it's not too too hard to kind of figure it out. It takes you maybe a day to kind of figure that stuff out and just start drawing it. But with this, everything has to be thought out. And I'm trying to think deeper about it. Like I said, like creating a civilization, creating a design. If you look at the helmets, there's a bit of a design, like you'll see little bits and pieces of the helmets kind of repeated in other characters. Cause I thought, these helmets would be designed by the same people. So like if they're dog helmets of different species, they should kind of look similar, and so you're thinking about these things constantly, but it adds that much more time to it. But when it's all done and you draw it and people respond to it, it's worth it. And I was thinking the other day, like in the first arc, I don't know, we introduced like 12 or 14, there's like 14 new characters that we introduced. And it's like those 14 characters didn't exist prior to us doing the book. And now they exist in some way. And who knows where those characters will go in the future and the reach that they might have. They might not have any reach, but they may have reach. And it's like, that's a cool thought.
Yeah, I have like the list here. If you want me to name them off really quickly here, we're getting towards the end of our conversation, but I want to just for the listener here, you have Bloodhound, Wild Hogs Warden, you have Reynard, who's the Fox Warden, Arachnid, who we actually saw in issue 7. I guess, well, I'll cut that part out. Not supposed to spoil that yet.
Oh, you can talk about it.
Okay, Arachnid Spider Warden.
Well, we see him earlier on.
Yeah, we see him. I think in issue 3 or 4. We have Hardhead, Ram Warden, Stag, Deer Warden, Matterhorn, Goat Warden, Locust Warden, Tatako. I want to say, I hope I'm saying that correctly. Buffalo Warden, Jackrabbit, Hare Warden, Glacier, Polar Bear Warden, Vermin, Rat Warden, Cockerel, Rooster Warden, and then Kaida, the Mountain Lion Warden.
Get away from my chickens.
So yeah, like you said, that brief sort of overview of what's possibly to come, characters we can meet down the road, I think is really interesting. And I love, again, as you said earlier, sort of one of Geoff's superpowers is that he has this ability to sort of peek into the future and know that like, we're not just telling you this for no reason. At some point, hopefully we're going to meet a lot of these characters. If not, again, as you said, Arachnid will meet relatively soon. So, Jason, we got one more question for you here. You've been so generous with your time, and it's been such a pleasure talking to you here today. And I wanted to sort of end on this sort of larger idea of Ghost Machine. You and the entire Ghost Machine crew have been abundantly clear that these titles and this overarching unnamed universe is here to stay. And while, Aaron and I, we totally agree. And I think a lot of people listening to this right now totally agree that you draw one of the best Batmans of all time. But it's exciting that you and Geoff and Brian and just like the entire crew at Ghost Machine are building your own foundation, again, as you've talked about a lot throughout this conversation. So
crushing goals
and just making new ones, right? So final question for you here, a big one. And I apologize if this is maybe a tough one to get to, but 5 years from now, what areas of growth do you want to see, not just with Ghost Machine, but also Rook's corner of that universe?
Yeah. This is something I've thought about a lot because of the fact that Rook takes a long time to draw, and it takes me a long time to do these issues. And my goal is to put out 6 issues of Rook a year. I see Rook as it's a long-term investment, and it's something that I want to slowly build up this library of these books and these stories and these characters. In 5 years, I'd love to have, 4 or 5, trades out, developing these characters and these stories. The cool thing about Rook is we kind of know where it's going to go. Like, we kind of know what the ending is. Like, I know what the grand ending of the whole thing is. And we also have these kind of like these mini sort of goals of where we want to get to with the story. And these big, huge event kind of things that we want to do. Will I ever get there and get to draw those things? I don't know. At some point, but I would love to be able to work on this book for the rest of my career and build a legacy, build out these books and these characters. And as long as people want to read them and again, thank you for the fans for having patience. Rook is never meant to be a monthly book. It's going to come out when it comes out. And I got a young family. I really wrestle with balancing, the hours that I do need to put into the work, but also making sure I'm there for my wife and for my kids and being a dad and coaching hockey and I want to do all of those things. That's why Ghost Machine for me too was a way to step out of the grind of monthly comics and do something where I had that control over when the books come out. And if it takes me 3 months to draw an issue, then it takes me 3 months, but I'm going to put my heart and my soul into it, and it's going to be cool, But my goal for myself is in 5 years, I want to just build. I would love to have 4 or 5 trades out, and hope that people are still interested in reading. We do have larger goals for the company and where we want to go, but film, TV, all that kind of stuff. But that stuff takes time, and you need to build up the comics first. And I've also always said, if Rook never becomes anything outside of comics, I'd be totally fine with that, because really my love is the comic books. I just want to create good comic books, and I want to create books that are accessible to a large audience. I wanted to create a book that I could give to my younger son and say, hey, you can read this. It's fairly clean. There's a little bit of violence in it, but the language is clean. And you can read this, but you can also hand it to a 40-year-old guy and say, you can read this too, and you'll love it, Mm-hmm. And I've been passionate about that. And I want to create things that are more everybody. It's for anybody can pick it up and read it, and I think enjoy it. And I don't know. You want to be humble. Again, talking about goals, you want to be humble about your goals, but you also want to set some really crazy goals that may seem almost impossible to get to, but you find that when you set those crazy goals, they a lot of times again come true. But it's slow, and it's a lot of determination, consistency, hard work, sacrifice is a huge one, work ethic, and just continuing on through the good times and the low times. But that's my goal for Rook. I want to create something that I want to read, that I want to draw, and that I can just build. That's mine, my vision, my artistic vision, and something that I can be proud of, and something that I can pass on, hopefully maybe to the next generation of artists one day to take it over and lead it into wherever it goes from there. That would be really cool too. But I don't know. It's exciting. It really is. And we're so thankful for everybody who picks up copies of our books and reads them, and the passion that fans have for them. We got the numbers back for Rook issue 7, and they were excellent. And the book's not even out yet, it looks like it's going to sell out. So it's like great. Like, this is cool. That it shows me that you can be off the stands for a year, and as long as you're doing good work, people are going to still respond to it, and they want to read it. And that to me is very, it builds my confidence, and it shows me that, people do care, and they want to read this stuff. Then I want to give them the best of me and my best work, and give them a story that they're going to enjoy and want to continue reading.
Yeah. I don't know what's in the water up there in Canada, but, not to name drop really quickly, Aaron and I talked to Todd McFarlane last night sort of about, not just King Spawn 50 and sort of, again, this long-running creator-owned story that he's building over there, along with the other 17 long-running titles he's running over there with Spawn. But and Aaron, you can back me up on this. It sort of seems like, Jason, I don't know if you're like a child of the McFarlane tree or whatever, but, he is saying almost exactly the same thing, right, Aaron? It's like, it's the determination. It's the put your head down and work. And then you will find the rewards, not only with the work, but also with the readership, So.
Well, the thing that I took from the conversation yesterday, and I feel like you definitely emphasize this as well, Jason, was the fact that, we asked him about capturing kind of like a moment in time with what you create. And I think that, his response was very focused on the, create what you're going to create, and then put in as much effort as you think it needs, and then take a step back from it and let it be. Because if you're really just if you're focusing on that one moment in your comic that you think is going to impact somebody, you're going to put too much effort and you're going to overthink it. And I think that that's something that you do obviously very well. And again, with these splash pages, with Rook in general, again, Chris and I talked about this ad nauseum. There's just these moments in this first arc that are just incredible, and the characters are incredible, the designs are incredible, and again, I know I can speak for myself and Chris that we're just excited for more of this. And I'll say this before we wrap up this conversation is there's one thing that I want, and that's more Rook merchandise.
Well, again, that's another thing. It's like a slow burn. It's something where you got to earn it, right? You have to earn the right for people to by creating something good that people want, that companies can then come in and say, hey, let's do a toy, let's do a whatever, a TV show, or t-shirts or whatever, but you got to earn that. And again, going back to where I see myself in 4 years, it's I almost think that Rook is going to have its day in the sun, but it may take 4 or 5 years until people are like, holy smoke, this is an epic stinking comic book, and it's still going, and these guys are still building this universe, and it may take some time to get there, but that's kind of where I see it going. And again, it's just but it takes a lot of hard work and dedication and time to it, and dreaming big. And I believe there will be action figures. I believe it. I know it. I can already see it. And I believe there's going to be all kinds of cool stuff, but we gotta earn it. We got to earn that stuff, and you got to earn it by just being consistent. Put out your book, do your best work. Don't give your 110%. Keep going, do your next thing, and just, we're already trying to figure out the next story arc, and this one, the issue 7 to 12 story arc is really cool. It's more of a horror vibe.
Oh, nice.
But it's got some, again, just crazy character designs that I'm cursing myself every day. Why did I design this character looking like this? Or, but it looks really cool. And that's all that really matters in the end, delivering a cool book that people want to read.
Yeah. Well, Jason, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here on the show. It's honestly been so great having you here, not just to talk about Ghost Machine, but Rook as a whole. And I'm just going to remind everybody once again, as Jason just said, new arc, issue 7 starts on October 1st. So make sure you call your local comic book shop, get that put on your pull. And then along with that, the deluxe hardcover, the Fight or Flight story arc that we've been talking about today, comes out on October 29th. So again, put that on your pull. I want to say FOC is the week that we put this conversation out for the hardcover. So make sure you guys call your local comic book shop, get that ordered. Again, Jason, we've taken too much of your time. Really quickly before you let you go, is there anything that you want to sort of plug? How can people follow your career? All the good things before we get you out of here.
Yeah, I'm most active on Instagram. You can find me on there, J Fabok, I think it is. Just type in my name, you'll find me. The hardcover is really cool. I put in there's a ton of kind of behind the scenes stuff, all the designs that some of them go back to 2013 from Rook stuff that's been there forever, and there's a whole commentary on the back about the designs and all this stuff. So it's something that a lot of the fans have been asking for. They want that out of a Rook hardcover. So I really feel like it's going to deliver on that. It's a beautiful looking book. And so, that comes out, pick that one up, and then you can jump right into issue 7 and join us for that adventure.
Yeah, you guys do an incredible job of sort of catching folks up with issue 7. You could honestly just pick up issue 7 if you want. I would highly recommend, I think Aaron and I would both recommend, and Jason as well, that you pick up issues 1 through 6. But if you just so happen to want to jump in on issue 7, you guys have a pretty good sort of mini explainer there at the beginning. So sort of an homage to the old days of comics where they sort of told you what happened in the previous arc. So
last time on Rook Exodus.
Well, sure. Jason, again, thank you so much. I hope to have you back on the show at some point down the road. Maybe we can get Geoff on here with you guys together. Maybe at the end of the second arc there. And, just thank you for coming on. Congratulations on all the success with both Rook and Ghost Machine, and hope to talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. I had a blast. It was great.